What's up, guys? I already messed something up, but it's King Andrew. There we go. What's up, guys? It's King Andrew here with another Nexus Gaming Series cast. It's Season 17 of the Nexus Gaming Series, and tonight we've got the Heroic Division. This is my first time ever casting Heroic Division. Breaking my Heroic Division cherry. Yep, already went there. Already went with the cherry popping joke. Not going to be cutting the stream just yet, though. There aren't enough people watching to actually cut the stream. Nobody will come back. But for tonight, we've got Rong is Never Wrong versus Rodney's Imaginary Friends. So let's take a look at some of these teams. In fact, you know what? I want to take a quick look at, well, we'll just take a quick look at these notes because I don't know if I got the time for all the other BS that I have planned out. But so these are two teams here, Rodney's Imaginary Friends and Rong is Never Wrong, that so far, based on what I'm kind of seeing in the landscape of Heroic Division this season, I'm estimating both to kind of be potentially underdogs. Press the wrong thing again. Anyway, so Rodney's Imaginary Friends is a returning team from Heroic Division. They played in Heroic Division last season. They were definitely on the lower end of the rankings. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they did not make the playoffs last season. So I think they were either 9th or 10th. So they were on the lower end. They were an underdog last season, and until they prove otherwise, I'm going to see them as an underdog this season. Who knows? Maybe they've been training up real hard in the offseason, been practicing their comps, their cheese, what have you, their mechanical skill, and we'll see what they bring out. Now, Rong is Never Wrong, on the other hand. Wrong is Never Wrong. That's a tough name to say. Man, Wrong is Never Wrong. Sometime he is going to be wrong. But as a team, they are a Nexus Division transplant returning from Season 15. So they haven't played for a whole season. And they were a Nexus Division team, not a Heroic team. And I think Season 15 was also the last season that there was a Storm Division. I'm not 100% sure. I think that's true. Somebody fact check me on that. But either way. So Wrong is Never Wrong. They were a Nexus Division team 2 seasons ago. They've got some new players this season. However, most of those players are actually coming from like lower divisions than that. Some of them even coming from Div B. In fact, every single player of Wrong is new to Heroic Division this season. So for the moment, I'm seeing them both as the underdog in this series as well as in Heroic Division. We're going to see how things go, though, because we're already in our first draft. Didn't even have much time to take a look at the maps. Yeah, I don't got time to look at the maps. We're just going to get into the draft. It's on Battlefield of Eternity. Let's take a look at it. Vala already coming out as our first ban, obviously. Oh, just kidding. You know what? We just might have some time for a map. So now let's take a look at our maps, assuming the map screen is working. So as you can see, Wrong is Never Wrong. They did ban out Braxis Holdout and Sky Temple. Dragonchar banned out by Rodney's Imaginary Friends. Fuck that map. Hate it. And Volskaya Foundry also banned out by Rodney's Imaginary Friends, which does mean Wrong is Never Wrong took us to Battlefield of Eternity for game number 1. Love to see it. This is personally one of my favorite maps in the game, along with Towers of Doom, of course. I love the team fighting aspect of it. I also love that there are certain heroes on this map that are prioritized. A lot of the heroes that are prioritized on this map just happen to be a lot of my favorite heroes, things like Hanzo, Li Ming, Vala, Greymane. Wonderful heroes to play, particularly strong on this map, so love to see it. So since we had this extra time, since our draft just kind of fell apart, and I'm sure we'll come back together at some time, we're going to take a quick look at the standings for Heroic Division this season. And again, you might be wondering, why are we looking at the standings for a season that has barely started? What I kind of just want to do here is take a look at the landscape of Heroic Division this season. So for my money, the team that I'm really looking at as the favorite has to be Mommy's Little Gamers. They are the reigning champs from last season. They've got, I think, pretty much all of their roster from last season, maybe added a player. If there are any teams in this division that I think will be contenders against Mommy's Little Gamers, probably going to be Cowboy Wannabes, which is a spiritual successor to last season's Boomers and Zoomers, and the Don Juan Special, which is the kind of follow-up to last season's Bronze 6. We don't have too much time to look over this. Oh, yeah. My new friend in chat, whose name I can't pronounce yet, but I will learn how. Durotan's Couch is in Heroic Division. That is a talking point I'd love to get into at a later time, but we don't have time for it because our draft we've got our draft back here, and hopefully we don't drop out of the draft this time. So it looks like the ban setting was messed up. It was supposed to be Rodney's imaginary friends getting first ban in this series, not Rong is never wrong, because Rong, they're the team that picked the map. They took us here. And yeah, we're going to see how things go. Diablo going to be banned out by Rodney's imaginary friends. I respect it. I am personally a big Diablo believer and enjoyer. I think he's personally think he's the best tank in the game. I do think he's better than Johanna. Particularly good, I think, on this map. I think there's a lot of terrain in that immortal area where he can get a lot of value and get a lot of stuns. Li Ming, of course, particularly, that's one of those heroes that I was talking about is, I think, particularly prioritized on this map with kind of just how the game has advanced and how power creep has worked on just the hero pool in the game. Li Ming, especially at higher levels, is mostly specific to Battlefield of Eternity. You don't see her too often on other maps at these higher levels. Of course, at lower to mid levels, she tends to be a comfort pick. Talk about comfort picks, though. It's going to be the Blaze picked up by Asmoched. I don't know if that's really a comfort pick for him, but I'm sure it's a hero that he plays. Typically, the way I see drafts at the higher divisions work out is that there is a focus on the offlane, with the top three offlaners being Dehaka, Blaze, and Leo. Just kidding, I meant Dehaka, Blaze, and Hogger. Hogger already being banned out, Blaze already being taken, and it's going to be Yrel picked up by King Mo on the side of Rong is never wrong. Yrel is actually who I consider the fourth best offlaner in the game, but she tends to be much, much more rare than the top three. And I think not because she's that much worse, but more because I think she's actually that much harder to play. Hogger, not exactly an easy hero, but Yrel, I think, particularly difficult to play. Very awkward mechanics. Johanna picked up by Sparklark. Hanzo going to be picked up by Rodney. And Firelance, meanwhile, in that last draft rotation, did pick up the Vala. So some of those high burn heroes picked up by both teams, as well as some strong frontline, getting what are just a lot of the strongest frontlining heroes in the game. Our bans, we're going to have Sylvanas banned out and Muradin banned out as well. So we're starting to have a little bit of a tank choke with the two tanks in my game that are the best. Kind of out of the picture in Diablo and Johanna. Muradin, I think, in kind of that next tier of tanks, also not going to be allowed to play a factor.
I will fight to my last breath.
And interestingly, gotta point out the fact that Rong is never wrong is named after a player. There is a player on the team named Rong, and he is not currently in this game. Wonder if he will eventually make an appearance instead. We've got Tuna Breath, one of the season's newest additions, coming up from Div B even, as one of our players in this game, playing on the Rhaegar right there. So we are seeing drafts that are pretty straightforward. No huge curveballs coming out of either team just yet. And I kind of feel like we're not going to see anything particularly strange. And this is where I get proven wrong. Cassia, Tyrande. All right, that's like a minor curveball. I wouldn't call that a huge curveball. It's definitely not something that I would expect immediately going into it, but they're both actually pretty solid heroes. Tyrande in particular strong on this map. Actually adds a huge amount of immortal burn, both through her level 1 talent. The True Shot aura adds a huge amount of extra damage onto the Immortal, and of course, just the Hunter's Mark, reducing the armor of the Immortal. Alright, it's going to be Maiev, so that's kind of the big curveball thrown in at the end. And that is, I think, the most polarizing hero to make it into the draft. Of course, that is going to be our 5th pick. So kind of where those most surprising heroes will come into play. And players also switching things around, making things even harder for me as I try to enter things in. All right, and that is going to be our draft for game number 1 on Battlefield of Eternity. All right, here we are on Battlefield of Eternity. Our first team, Rong is never wrong. Can is going to be on the Anubrak, Firelance on the Vala, Zamang on the Maiev, Tunabref is going to be on the Rhaegar, and finally up in the top lane, going to be King Mo in the top lane. Yep, in the top lane. I said it again, playing as Yrel. Their opponents, Rodney's Imaginary Friends, Sparklark on the Johanna, Snarfungus going to be playing as the Cassia, Rodney's on the Hanzo, Drinko on the Tyrande, and finally it's going to be Asmochad in that top lane against the Yrel playing as the Blaze. So taking a look at our level 1 talents, seeing if there's anything particularly interesting here. Probably, again, kind of coming out from what I see is the most polarizing pick so far. The Maiev actually going for the Nicious Memento does come across as a little bit of a surprise to me. This is something that I do personally think of primarily as a camping talent, because it adds a lot of damage when you're camping. But man, forget about camping. Let's talk about team fighting, as both of the several health bars going down to half or less on the side of Rong is never wrong. Big condemn from Sparklark, followed up by the damage from Rodney and Starf. Going to result in a few taps being required by Rong is never wrong. Firelance trying to step up with that Vala. Does it once again get chunked out. Getting chunked out from afar. The draft from Rong is never wrong is a much more close-range draft than that of Rodney's Imaginary Friends. Meanwhile, Snarfungus, can she get out of here alive? And that actually will be the first kill of the game, going in favor of Rong is never wrong. Catching the Cassia down in these vents. She is a hero she has conditional mobility. Her movement ability, Fend, you can only target an enemy, and it will go through other enemy heroes, but if you don't have someone who's in a good spot, you are kind of just trapped if you find yourself in a corner, which is where Snarfungus found her. So, Maiev pull goes in, Zamang throwing out those fans of knives. I think activated, I'm trying to get my sounds right, I think did activate the Nicious Memento right there. And you know, it's not that Nicious Memento can't get damage value in a team fight. Pretty much as long as Maiev is allowed to auto-attack, that Nicious Memento will get value at any time, whether it's in a team fight or on a camp. Can kill getting really, really low, really playing with fire there, and does just need to back off. So Rodney's Imaginary Friends did suffer the first death of the game, but they will be able to push here. Both Rodney on the Hanzo and Snarf on the Cassia can kind of just poke at the tower, as they do have abilities that can just poke it out from a distance. And again, a much longer range draft from Rodney's Imaginary Friends between the Hanzo and the Cassia. Cassia going Q build and able to shoot those Thunder Furies from quite a distance, or Lightning Furies as they're really called. Throw them from a distance. Of course, Hanzo, famously a very long-range hero overall between both Stormbow, and Scattershot. It's not Scattershot, it's called Scatter Arrow. What is it really called? Oh my god, why is this so hard? It's actually called Scatter Arrow. Just questioning everything, questioning existence when in the middle of a game. Asmochad possibly caught out a little bit, but they won't bother him. Can kill, I wonder if could have gone in on him. Does look like Rodney's Imaginary Friends will ingress upon the team from Rong is never wrong. Firelance getting dove upon a bit by Asmochad, but Asmochad not quite enough follow-up for him there, so we will be backing off Rodney, throwing in those scatter arrows. Firelance actually coming in pretty deep, commits one of his vaults, and he only has one because he's only at level 5. Doesn't have more than one to speak of. And Zamang getting pretty low there. The damage just barely coming in, but both teams will ultimately walk away. And it is Rong is never wrong with the better damage on the Immortal so far. They were set up first, and it was Rodney's Imaginary Friends who instead went for the defense. And it is a little bit of a question right now. I'm not sure who actually has the better Immortal Burn. Of course, we do have Hanzo with the Serrated Arrows talent, but Hanzo's Immortal Burn, he doesn't do it quite as consistently because he doesn't get CDR. First of all, he doesn't have the CDR talent yet, and of course it only works when you attack heroes. Alright, meanwhile, Spark and Can Kill practically kissing each other. Can Kill finds a dive in, goes for Snarfungus. Snarfungus gets pulled in by the Maiev, and I think Maiev looking like she might go down, but actually heals coming in from the Elun's Blessing of Tyrande. Drinko being the hero in that fight, but Sparklark, it will be traded 1 for 1. It will be tanks on both sides. Asmochad goes in, but the sad thing for Blaze is if he misses his charge, he is just absolutely in huge amounts of trouble. So, most likely, probably going to be looking at this first Immortal going in favor of Rong is never wrong, and I don't know. I might have misjudged them. I might have underestimated them. Again, the Rong is never wrong is a team that as individuals, this is their first season in Heroic Division. They have never played in Heroic Division before. They played in Nexus, and again, that was 2 seasons ago, back when there was still a Storm Division. Meanwhile, Rodney's imaginary friends are our, the experienced Heroic Division team here. They played in Heroic Division for 1 season, and they're back for a second. Sparklark potentially in a little bit of trouble. Did kind himself get caught out by the Immortal Stun Circles. And it will probably just be a nice defense here. The wall will be taken. But there is Maiev going in once again, catching Snarfungus, but Snarfungus does manage to dodge the Immortal Stun Circles, and again, just barely getting out of there alive. It does seem like right now, Rong is never wrong, pretty consistently targeting Snarfungus, and she does seem to be so far, she does seem to kind of be the most vulnerable target. Not because she's the squishiest, but because she is the one who is most likely to actually find herself getting caught by the Maiev. Drinko, as a healer, can stand a little farther back, and Hanzo, as a Hanzo, played by Rodney, can also stand a little farther back. Stand, not my best in terms of putting words together, but we'll deal with it for now. A little bit of a rotation by Yrel, so there's pretty much a guaranteed camp. Rodney also scouting it out. Rodney moving a little bit far forward. We did have the Impale go out onto Snarf, but she does dodge the follow-up burrow charge. And I think as long as they all disengage here... Oh, that must have been a blind on the Maiev. Or she just did an auto-attack, because I thought I had heard the Umbral Bind, but it didn't quite happen. Can kill once again, getting a bit low. Snarfungus eating some damage from the Vala, but she is pretty tanky compared to a Vala. And one of the things that is actually a little weak about the Maiev is definitely the most polarizing pick here, but it's a Maiev into both a Johanna and a Cassia, both of which can blind Maiev and prevent her Umbral Bind from actually working. Taking a look at our top lane, as I haven't spent that much time looking at it at all so far. Asmochad going to be here just to clear these lanes. Yeah, I mean, we've got some lane clear here. We have camps being picked up by both teams. Rong is never wrong, having getting there a little bit faster, but holding the cap for a little bit. While Rodney's imaginary friends still making their way to clear it and still also making their way to 10. But I think with the Immortal positions being in home positions or natural positions, I think it won't really be easy for... Oh yeah, and then we already have level 10 come out for Rodney's imaginary friends. So, Rodney's imaginary friends, they get in the position for the Immortal, but it is Rong is never wrong, who ultimately do more damage to the Immortal and are in the better position. So, Rodney's imaginary friends setting up for defense yet again. Zamang already here in the back. Gonna pull Rodney in a little bit, but can kill, doesn't hit, not quite true with the stun. Drinko finds himself in a Warden's Cage. Just kidding, that's the other one, the opposite of the Warden's Cage. I guess technically they're probably not opposites, but the one that's not the Warden's Cage. The Containment Disc is what it's really called. It stalled a little bit to remember the name. Anyway, I think Rong is never wrong, possibly seeing that Asmochad is down here, so Cankill goes in, finds the stun, but the damage not quite there yet. Instead, the damage going on to Cankill, and he goes down real quick. It might be a trade, or is it? Just kidding, it's not a trade. Instead, it's yet another kill. 2-0 in favor of Rodney's imaginary friends. Can they make it 3 here? They're body blocking the Yrel, but she does use her ult and knock them away. There's still quite a bit of immortal damage burn to make up for Rodney's imaginary friends. Rodney here, pretty low on mana. Will have some scatter arrows to shoot soon. Of course, shooting at the back, it's the easier angle because that's kind of just a flat 90. Oh god, missing it. But another hero going down. Zamang kind of playing with fire here, and that will be another hero going down in favor of Rong is never wrong. They kind of started off strong, and King Mo does not have... He does not have his heroic there. My god, I was going to say, if he gets out of there, that's insane, but he doesn't make it. Attempted Ancestral by Tuna Breath, not going to be enough to save him here. It's nevertheless an Immortal pushing in favor of Wrong is never wrong. They won't be able to push alongside it, so the damage that it will get will definitely be mitigated quite a bit, but it's still going to get some value. Still going to, at the very least, take out this front wall. Might even possibly get a little bit of damage on the fort. In fact, I think it will. It's going to get probably a couple chunks. That's already down to about 90%, and it's going to hit it a few more times before it finally does wilt. I was wondering if he was going to get yet another swing in. Fire Lance, meanwhile, stepping up, possibly poking that bot fort as well. So it is Wrong is never wrong. Definitely currently in the lead structurally. They are not in the lead in terms of kills, and it is a slight experience advantage in favor of Rodney's imaginary friends. And Sparklark walks up here. Tens have been coming in, and nothing seems out of the ordinary in terms of our heroic picks. Everything really looks pretty much as expected, especially for this level of play. So Zemang moving up, throwing out some fans of knives. The poke is a lot higher for Rodney's imaginary friends, whereas the engage potential probably a lot more scary from Wrong is never wrong, and that's also debatable, as we do have both Blessed Shield and Dragon Arrow on the side of Rodney's imaginary friends. But I think the engage from Rodney's imaginary friends, given what I just said, is much more based around their heroics, so it is on much longer cooldowns. We are going to see, uh-oh, there is the engage coming out, but can they trade it out? Snarfungus taking only a little bit amount of damage, and Sparklark is back here. I was even wondering if maybe he was going to commit the Blessed Shield, try to make something of that, but Rodney was in a... not a Warden's Cage, it's the other one, it's the not Warden's Cage. He's in the containment disc, so he wasn't able to participate in that fight. So, Spark does not pull the trigger there, and I think rightly so. Level 13 talent tier coming in for both of our teams, and again, things not looking, nothing looking particularly unusual, but definitely some important power spikes being picked here. That Blessed Hammer from the Johanna, increasing her damage output considerably. The Harsh Moonlight from Tyrande, I think one of the core talents for her, no matter what the rest of your build is. Meanwhile, Drinko, as I had mentioned, I had talked about the True Shot Aura earlier, but instead going for the Lunar Blaze. So less damage on the Immortal, but more follow-up potential on any engage by Asmochad and Sparklark. Meanwhile, the Immortal damage this time actually looking very, very even. It does also make me wonder, would the Immortal burn be in Rodney's imaginary friend's favor if Drinko had gone for the True Shot Aura? But guy's better than me. I trust him. I think he knows what he's doing, and I think this caster is clueless. So King Mo jumps in, doesn't quite make anything of it, but what is making things happen is this camp in the bot lane. While I briefly take a look at a camp and get away from a team fight, Sparklark using that Blessed Hammer, but it is going to be on the gauge onto Snarfungus. Also the Warden's, not the Warden's Cage, it's never the Warden's Cage, this is not in this game. It was an Umbral Bind. Maev does get an Ancestral, and Can-Kill is the first one to go down, but health bar is pretty low all around. King Mo jumping back in, trying to make something happen with the Ardent Defender, but I think that's just going to be another death, and then they may be able to make it 3, catching Zemang on that Maev, finished off by seemingly an auto from the Blaze. So, once again, Rodney's imaginary friends win the team fight, but lose the Immortal. Of course, you know, getting later and later on into the game, where the later they get, the more both of these things become valuable. The more an Immortal becomes valuable and becomes harder to defend against, the more winning the team fight becomes valuable. But so far, Rodney's imaginary friends does feel like, and they have the talent tier lead, and again, courtesy of all those kills they're getting, but they are kind of just treading water at the moment. They have been unable to really translate their teamfight wins into meaningful advantage yet. Meanwhile, Asmochad going to try to make something happen, but we did have the Unstoppable, the Burrow Charge from Can-Kill, preventing it from happening. Zemang goes in, but doesn't quite get anything. Doesn't find purchase with the Umbral Bind there. Does have fully completed pin down, granting an extra 50% damage on that pin down, or rather on those Fans of Knives. Oh man, Fans of Knives, one of my favorite phrases from last season. Talk about Fans of Knives. Zemang is getting on out of there. A lot of ults just being traded out without actually achieving anything. The bunker goes down. The not Warden's Cage goes down. This time I know it's called Containment Disc. Oh. Zamang still looking for more, as Wrong is Never Wrong does just about pick up level 16 talent here, as they bring it in. Important power spikes for them as well, particularly the Templar's Verdict from the Urel and the Manticore from the Vala. Actually, this is a huge talent, this is a huge power spikes for just about everyone on the side of Wrong is Never Wrong. I don't think well, you know, as it turns out, level 16 is just a really, really important talent here. Just a lot of power spikes all around. Hard to, I think Wrong is Never Wrong still has the bigger power spikes. Man, and they're going to take advantage of that power spike, taking out Rodney on that Hanzo. They're going to look for more as King Mo jumps into the back. I think Drinko is going to go down here. He does find heals on himself, but will it be enough to escape this Vala? As Cankill dives in, looks for more. It will just be the one kill on the Hanzo, but that one kill on the Hanzo may be just all they need, as it is pretty crippling. Basically means that Rodney's Imaginary Friends has to, at the very least, concede the first half of the Immortal phase. Maybe they'll see what damage they can find on their own, but they're not even really in position, so it might just be like full damage against none going into the halftime when Rodney does get back here. Wow, they actually burn it so fast. Rodney's still not here yet. They might have to just go for an engage with Rodney contributing the Dragon Arrow from afar. I think lucky for... Oh, no, and it's on... Oh, my God, this Immortal positioning also terrible for Rodney's Imaginary Friends. This is something that could potentially be looking at game, as they're going to be looking at something like... maybe like 60, 70% Immortal. Actually, pretty good burn by Rodney's Imaginary Friends on that Immortal phase. So they get it down to just a little bit over 50%. Johanna, though, does find herself getting caught in the not Warden's Cage, the containment disc, whereas the other Warden's Cage, the other not Warden's Cage, the other not containment disc, as much head in the cocoon from a noob. So it does at least mean heroics down, but the Warden's Cage is actually such a short heroic. It does feel like it's up all the time. Asmochad, oh no, does manage to get out, but at what cost? We are going to see more or less free Immortal defense here by the four-man from Rodney's Imaginary Friends, but a decent amount of push is going to happen down in the bottom by Wrong is Never Wrong. Sparklark trying to go in with that Condemn, but is slowed, so doesn't find anything with the Condemn and does not have the Blessed Shield yet to make a more committed engage. Meanwhile, Hanzo still up top, but oh no, these might be kill conversions right here. Maya finding the tethers, as Drinko does look for more autos to continue his healing. Need more healing on Asmochad right there. He will just get healed from the tap, as well as some heals from Drinko. So that's actually a really, really good defense by Rodney's Imaginary Friends. They face down a 55% Immortal about 16 minutes into the game and managed to not lose either of their keeps. That's actually huge. That does kind of keep the pressure in both lanes much, much more manageable. If they get a team fight win, they'll get their own Immortal, probably get down one of the forts. But it has kind of been Wrong is Never Wrong with at least... Oh, big engage here, happens here. Cankill dives in, and the big Warden's Cage. Just kidding, it's not the Warden's Cage. Why is it always the Warden's Cage? I just want to say Warden's Cage is not even in this game. Either way, big double kill for Rodney's Imaginary Friends. Rodney himself needing to be super careful, but maybe not. He knew what he was doing, and he found another kill on the Vala. So I think immediately here, Rodney's Imaginary Friends going to be looking to take out one structure, if not both. This one is for sure free. I think at the very least they take both the forts, unless they want to make a little bit more headway happen up top. Go for the front wall. Do they have time for the keep? They might actually have time for the keep with only 2 alive, and what can also happen is if Tuna Breath or anyone else here is not careful, Tuna Breath, I think, needs to be content to give up this keep. Oh yeah, that is for sure a keep. And that is a win condition opened up by Rodney's Imaginary Friends. They will have 20 talent here going into this Immortal phase. It's only 19 for Wrong is Never Wrong. Wrong is Never Wrong has looked strong in many ways. I think it's maybe just the nature of their draft with the Q-build Vala that they have just been winning on these Immortal phases. And it might just be now, in this late game, with the superior team fight, that Rodney's Imaginary Friends might finally pull ahead in structures. So they'll get the first half pretty much for free. And we still scouted out. Zamang going to eat a Sonic Arrow right to the face. And I think Rodney's imaginary friends are actually just going to go straight for the Immortal. Not going to bother to defend. They don't have to. They've got the advantage. Wrong is never wrong. Not even bothering to attempt the defense down 20, of course. They will just burn their own Immortal down to as much as they can and actually get it down really, really low before it's finally cleaned up by Rodney's imaginary friends. Instead, they'll look for the engage. Asmochad finds the stun. Rodney follows up with the Dragon Arrow, but kind of a short-range Dragon Arrow. It's now Yrel who's kind of caught out a little bit more, probably going to look for like a jump over the wall maybe. Or maybe just won't have to. So Rodney's imaginary friends deciding to push alongside their Immortal. And big power spikes coming in out of both of these teams. I actually think the level 20s from Wrong is Never Wrong are a little bit stronger, but of course some big power spikes coming out from both teams. Snarf getting real low. The Ancestral goes in on Can Kill, and it also gets anti-healed by the Johanna. It's not enough, and Tuna Breath now is surely not long for this world does go down from yet another Lightning Fury coming from Snarf, and I think that is going to be a 5-man team wipe, and eventually the game in favor of Rodney's imaginary friends, trailing in structures for the entire game, but ultimately winning in the end when it matters the most. Celebratory bunkers goes down as they all get in, showing off their teamwork. That bunker, when you have 5 people in that bunker, it does do actually huge amount of damage with all 5 of them flaming. Meanwhile, yeah, that is game number 1 going in favor of Rodney's imaginary friends. Quite a game right there. Of course, Rodney's imaginary friends pretty clearly winning in kills the whole time. 17-4 in kills, but trailing behind on the structures pretty much all game until those last 2 team fights. You know, one of the things that I wonder about is perhaps Wrong is Never Wrong was winning the Immortals. Maybe they just had better burn between this Puncturing Arrow Vala with the Monster Hunter at 7. And I wonder how much the True Shot from Drinko would have made a difference. Now, typically, I do think of the Lunar Blaze as the standard talent for Tyrande at level 1. It really just ensures that you can follow up on any engage that your tank or your offlaner is able to achieve, and make it so likely that you actually will kill the target that you engage on. But there's just a huge amount of immortal damage that you get from going for the True Shot aura. You get, when you activate True Shot, you grant 40% bonus attack power for all of your allies. So you're granting 40% bonus attack power on a Cassia and a Hanzo, and even on a Blaze and a Johanna. I just wonder if that could have tipped the Immortal burn in favor of Rodney's imaginary friends. We'll never know, and ultimately, it doesn't even matter because they won this game anyway. And we're going to see how Game 2 goes. What did end up being, you know, in many ways, actually a very close game, and I was looking at Wrong is Never Wrong as the underdog of Heroic Division, given that they're a Nexus Division team that is coming back from Season 15. But ultimately, they did very well. Certainly some things that they're going to have to clean up going into the next map, but we don't know what that is. We'll find out soon. For now, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll see you soon. All right, boys and girls, we're back. But before we actually get into our series, I want to show you my new emote collection that I am unveiling this season. So we've got two tiers here. We've got our follower tier, starting out with the King Champ, going into the King-gasm. Really, I think those two are all you need. So, you know, you don't have to worry about spending any money. Just, those two are all you need. If you're here at this channel, you already follow it, you have access to those top five emotes. Feel free to use them. I put a lot of love into them. It's not that easy to look at an emote, an existing emote, and think, oh, I can do that. It's actually a little bit harder than it looks, but ultimately, really proud of what I came out with. And of course, you know, the grift is real because in that subscriber tier, the very first thing I got in there is literally the first emote from the follower tier, just literally an inverted image. The grift is real. Don't spend any money on that. But if you really want to, you do get a little bit more. And, you know, it's nice and fun. But we're going to move on from that because pretty soon we are actually getting ready to go into our next game of the series. We do have our next map of the series, and we are going to also, you know, just update things, let you know where we're going. It is going to be Infernal Shrines for game number 2 of this series. Don't know who picked that yet, but I will find it out real soon. All right, and I'm back. It's me, King Andrew. I'm a former school teacher. I'm an ARAM enthusiast. I'm a voice actor, and I've been a video game caster since 2013. Let's go. Tonight, we've got the Heroic Division of Nexus Gaming Series Season 17. And our teams this season, I even wondered, did I already say something? Either way, Heroic Division, Nexus Gaming Series Season 16. We've got Rong is Never Wrong against Rodney's Imaginary Friends. You know, I may have counted Wrong is Never Wrong out a little too much. I mean, ultimately, you know, it was a win in favor of Rodney's Imaginary Friends, but I do think that was a very competitive game. I was personally looking at Wrong is Never Wrong as really being an underdog. They do not have any Heroic Division experience. This is their first time in Heroic Division, but playing very, very well there. So we'll take a look at the standings again, as I want to do this not just to look at our teams, but also to look at the landscape of Heroic Division this season. As I've said before, if you were here earlier, the team that I'm really looking at as the favorite for all of Heroic Division, for my money, has to be Mommy's Little Gamers. Mommy's Little Gamers are the reigning champions of Heroic Division, featuring people, a lot of like old Wild Heart players, Mason Blaze, Weary Day, Kelsier. I don't know if Kelsier is actually old Wireheart, but either way, some very strong players together. The reigning champions, I'm really looking at them as being the basically as being the favorite for this division this season. If there are any teams that I feel are really contenders, it's got to be Cowboy Wannabes, a spiritual successor to last season's Boomers and Zoomers, and the Don Juan Special, which is kind of a follow-up to last season's Bronze 6. So jointly, I am looking at those three as being kind of the favorites of the division. Gibbs also already feeling a little left out. Pause for DoorDash. Definitely got some good players on that team. And also Gibbs. But anyway, yes. Oh man, I swear I'm not usually like that. And I will escape any accountability whatsoever for my toxic behavior by going straight into this draft for game number 2 on Infernal Shrines. Wrong is Never Wrong, trailing in this series now. But I feel like I've seen enough from Wrong is Never Wrong that I do believe in them enough at this point to think that they can turn this around, that this can be a competitive series, and that they can even take this to a game 3. Mephisto going to be banned out first. Now, that's an interesting one. It's certainly a very good hero on this map. I still feel like Mephisto is not a hero that you ban without scouting your opponent. I don't think you just, with no knowledge and with no scouting, be like, oh, Mephisto's good here, let's ban Mephisto, even though he actually really is good here. But I think he's just a fairly rare hero. He does have very awkward mechanics that I don't think he's something that's super commonly played. Of course, at this level, you will inevitably find people who do play him because he is both very, very good, generally speaking, and on this map. The Diablo going to be banned out as well by Rodney's Imaginary Friends a second time. A little surprised. Was joking around a little bit with Sparklark before the series started. He mentioned he wanted me to not flame him for when he wanted me to not flame him for whenever he misses a heroic, and I'm like, What do you mean? How are you going to miss Lightning Breath? And now he's not even allowed to play Diablo because his team is banning it from him. It's actually not really Spark's most comfortable hero, although he definitely has picked it up a bit over the course of a couple seasons. Spark is actually a former teammate of mine. But forget about me. Let's talk about this draft. Sylvanas picked up by Zamang. Johanna picked up by Cankill. The Blaze, yet again, coming out from Asmochad. Not able to get on that Hogger. No one so far in this series has been able to get on that Hogger. Just kind of like not a balanced hero. He's very, very good, particularly on this map. And I think, you know, unlike Mephisto, where you don't ban that unless you've researched your opponents, Hogger is very much a hero that you ban even if you're not sure the enemy team plays him. He is not a balanced hero, and particularly on this map, he is just incredibly powerful. So Murden's going to be banned out, as Rodney will pick up the Junkrat, and Drinko will now be on the Anduin. Final ban for Game 2, potentially of this series. We'll see how things go. It's going to be the Leo. Leo, I think, you know, I talked about offlaners and how strong I feel. I do think Leo is somewhere around maybe like the 5th best offlaner after Yrel. Of course, Leo also pretty strong on this map, but King Mo just going to go back on the Yrel. A very powerful hero if you can really overcome the learning curve of her awkward mechanics. Basically those charged ability mechanics where if you play it wrong, you're just going to get stuffed out of your abilities, get hit by mini stuns, full stuns, big stuns. And this draft is just to be rounded out, as we are going to see our final picks by both Snarfungus and Sparklark. Sparklark going to have to play something new, and he's a little bit low on choices. Might go for the Anubarak at this point, just because there's not much left. Good. There is the Anubarak, and Snarfungus will now be on the Vala. Meanwhile, that final pick from Firelance. Firelance played Vala last game, so obviously can't play it again. They will round out their draft with the Tychus. Not a bad pick. Tychus is... my opinions of Tychus have changed quite a bit, particularly when I started playing in Nexus Division. My opinion of Tychus as a hero dropped significantly. He's still a pretty good hero, and, you know, to the credit of Rong is Never Wrong, this is a very, very strong map for Tychus. This is a map where you can kind of pick Tychus, and he is pretty consistently good. He was also picked pretty late in the draft, so conditions kind of allow him. Hopefully. We'll see. We'll talk about it more. But for now, let's get into this game. Just kidding, that's the draft screen. All right, here we go. Game number 2. Heroic Division. Wrong is never wrong. Just kidding, this is not Wrong is never wrong. I'm messing up the teams. Wrong is never wrong here. Trailing in this series, but looking very competitive. Tuna Breath now on the Rhaegar yet again. In fact, a lot of this draft is similar, and by a lot, I mean 2 heroes. Yeah. Not such great observations there. Zamang on the Sylvanas. Cankill on the Johanna this time. Firelance will be playing as Tychus. And it's going to be King Mo yet again on the Yrel. Their opponents, Rodney's imaginary friends. Rodney apparently is not actually friends with any of these people on his team. Feels bad for him. But Sparklark going to be playing as the Anubarak this time. Rodney will be on the Junkrat. Asmochad reprising his role in the Blaze. And Snarfungus on that AA Vala. Not to mention Drinko will be playing as the Anduin this time. Cankill does get chunked out of about 40% of his health, going down to about 60%, because that's how math works. Meanwhile, Zamang is now just in the bottom lane. Apparently also took some damage. Will just start clearing out this bottom lane. The rotation is going to come out. Can Sparklark find this engage? Unfortunately, he does not hit the Impale or the Burrow Charge. The Impale actually came last. And Cankill looking for a little bit of a flank, but will just flash her shield and then move back out of there. So AA Vala out from Snarfungus. I do personally believe both that the AA build for Vala is ultimately just the best build. Of course, it is also probably the hardest build to play and absolutely the riskiest, but usually worth it, especially at these higher levels of play. The scaling is just incredible with the stacks. Whether you usually, as long as you have either of stacking the quest or holding your gambit, usually either one is fine. And if you manage to keep both, you keep both your gambit and you get stacks. Oh, Zemang walking right up to the bush where Asmachad is there. Then usually Vala is just a win condition in the late game. And particularly, a reason why I think Vala is particularly good on this map is that the nature of the objective really helps her to build hatred and to kind of overcome the limiting factor of needing to build hatred. Because Vala at 0 hatred is actually pretty dog tier. Is that the phrase? Dog tier, dog water? I don't know. What are the kids saying these days? She's not good when you have 0 hatred. So building hatred off of the skeletal defenders is great and allows you to have full hatred when you actually want to go in for the team fight. Snarfungus vaulting in there. A little bit risky. Did not have her healer nearby, but ultimately didn't pay for it. I almost felt like Rong is never wrong. Possibly could have turned on that. Meanwhile, Zemang trying to help out King Mo, but Asmachad will jet propulsion through and will ultimately be fine. Does take some damage. Gonna heal up a little bit, and then this is something that people often don't remember, but the lighted oils will actually heal Blaze. Of course, it's not something that's that common. Well, it's not that it's not that common, but you usually don't want to use it exclusively for that unless you really, really have to. But it actually heals up pretty nicely from that. So some interesting things so far. Ooh, can kill gets, does have, did have trait, but ultimately it wasn't enough, was kind of just too far in there that they were able to burn through the damage through the shield with their damage, and this will just be a free Punisher going in favor of Rodney's imaginary friends with that death on the Johanna. So free Punisher, and because of that, Rong is never wrong. Going to look to see where they can find value elsewhere. They have Asmachad is alone here for Rodney's imaginary friends, while Zemang and King Mo look to push together with this bruiser camp. Asmachad, I feel like, needs to kind of make something happen. Like, I feel like he can tank some damage, and oh, maybe not. This is actually not that easy. So Rodney is coming out to help. Does manage to knock over Urel, but she doesn't actually care that much about that. She uses Hand of Freedom, just gives her some speed. And she's actually just fine. Rodney taking a lot of damage, though he might not be fine. You know what else might not be fine? The front wall. What a transition that was. The front wall of the fort in the bottom lane for Rong is never wrong. The front wall will go down, and that's about it. Oh, Snarfungus vaults in. Is there a pull from Drinko if it is needed? Doesn't even look like it's needed. Instead, just the stun from Sparklark allows them to kind of just trade damage there, not needing to use the pull cooldown from Anduin. So, looking at the build so far, Zemang right now has gone Might of the Banshee Queen at 1 and Festering Wounds at level 7. Most likely means that we are going to see Wailing Arrow at 10, which is also most likely just what you see at this level of play. And also even probably more, the part that's actually more insightful is that we most likely will just see Windrunner at level 13. Usually, if you're going to go Remorseless at 13, that would usually mean you're going to go for Overwhelming Affliction at 1. So we're going to kind of have that high mobility Sylvanas without percent damage, focusing more on diving heroes like the Vala, as well as the Anduin and the Junkrat. While the frontline burn is really going to come more out of this Tychus. Of course, that's just the nature of Tychus of a character. There really is never a time when he is not responsible for burning the frontline. Here, though, taking more damage on his own, going back in, really, really bold. Would be worth it if they do manage to get a stack away or a Gambit stack away from Snarfungus, but they don't even get that. Instead, it might be the kill on Can Kill, who is all the way in Narnia. Rodney rotating around to chase him. Can Kill walking around pretty fast, as he does have the Conviction, granting that extra 10% movement speed. But it's not fast enough when you're on the wrong side of the map and you've got 4 heroes chasing against you. All right, so huge amount of structure damage going to come out here. At the very least, it's going to be another wall. I think they should actually take out a little bit more than a wall. It's only Zemang here, and if Zemang tries too hard to defend this, it should actually just be an engage. Snarfungus doesn't have much mana, but Sparklark does. Sparklark, unfortunately, tanking a little bit too much damage from the fort does make going for engage a little bit scary. Asmochad, meanwhile, coming around in the flanks, but does get scouted out by Cankill. So level 10s are in for both teams. Pretty much expected heroics on all accounts. Again, that Wailing Arrow come in, which is... although I do personally look at Sylvanas as really having two viable heroics, generally speaking, the more you get into higher level play and higher divisions, the more that Wailing Arrow kind of just ends up being the pick. It is a little less easily countered and a little bit more consistent value. And, of course, our Light Bomb, and with that I kind of look at, you know, what Light Bomb targets do we have? I think primarily it's just got to be the Anubarak. The Blaze, a little bit of too much of a delay. Meanwhile, Spark Bark. Spark Bark? He's a dog now. Anyway, Spark Bark, or Sparklark, does use the Cocoon, but it is going to get burned out pretty fast. Oh no, that I think is going to be a kill onto Snarfungus. And once again, we have another kill right before the objective phase. Sparklark, not Spark Bark. Or a Splark Bark, I don't know. Let's not even pursue this bit any further. Should now pretty much just be a free Punisher taken in favor of Rong is never wrong. And perhaps more importantly, one Gambit stack has been taken away from the Vala. So Tyke is going to be working on burning just working on the Skeletal Defenders here, along with pretty much his entire team. So Tychus is disproportionately strong on this map compared to most other maps because of the value that he gets on the objective. He has great clear on the objective, both with his basic abilities, Grenade and Overkill, great for clearing the objective. And if you need to fight on the Shrine, Odin is really good for that too, as you have the AoE damage from the Odin's abilities, as well as just the extra range, making it really easy to just poke from afar with the Odin. Odin also great for pushing, so it will be used here, along with the Sylvanas. We are going to see Asmochad come in from behind, as well as a Light Bomb. Can they make something happen? They're targeting Firelance. Oh my god, King Mo, all the way in enemy territory, coming from the back. He is a Urel, so he is relatively unkillable, and even finds a kill onto Drinko. Oh my god, there's a part of me that feels like that should be illegal. He was really all the way behind enemy lines, but he does find the kill, and there might just be another one onto Sparklark, or will it? I think at this point, King Mo has done quite a lot, but not enough to take another kill. Oh my god, I think Rodney's Imaginary Friends needs to be content to give up this fort. Otherwise, they're going to lose a lot more. Oh my god, Asmochad playing with fire there. It does jet propulsion back out, so yeah. Unfortunately, wow, King Mo, the hero of that play right there, coming in with that big, big flank. Just using the incredible tankiness of Urel to make plays happen in a place where most heroes cannot, and where most players would not even be willing to try. You will never see me that far behind a fort, regardless of what hero it is. Just not that kind of player. Asmochad does find 3 with the jet propulsion, but not enough of his team is there to really capitalize on it. So, we've got a situation that in some ways looks similar to last game. Rong is never wrong, yet again in the advantage in terms of structures. And of course, ultimately structures are what matter most. But this game, they are also in the lead in terms of kills and experience. So it's looking a little bit stronger for them. As predicted, we do have the Windrunner Sylvanas, so might be making more plays, might be able to dive alongside that Urel to make life really, really hard for the Vala and for the Junkrat in particular. Zemang, going back though, does feel that they need some mana before. There's a part of me that's wondering if maybe they could have stayed and just stayed here with low mana, tried to get Black Arrows on the fort, push us forward, maybe take down the fort, but ultimately that's not going to happen. Instead, they back, and they're going to look to see if they can take top fort, which at this point they most likely will. King Mo is already here, and Zemang doesn't even need to use Black Arrows for this. Full rotation coming from... Full rotation, actually very unnecessary from Rong is never wrong. So Rodney's Imaginary Friends rightly sees that the bottom fort is theirs for free. Problem is, they're also at a point where they're going to start losing the key front wall, and that is not worth it. They still want to get this, my god. Needed Sparklark to go over there and tap it with his mandibles. Nearly the whole front wall goes down. The whole keep front wall goes down here in this top lane. So game still looking reasonably even. This is still anyone's game, but it is really, really nice for Rong is Never Wrong to be at a 16 talent tier advantage going into this objective phase. Will they be able to maintain it into the objective phase? And they are picking up this camp. Asmachad finding himself up here, having to clear. He will eventually, of course, have to clear this camp, and also just trying to pick up experience so that Rodney's imaginary friends will have level 16 talent tier in time for it to matter. So Rong is Never Wrong with the positioning on the shrine. They're already there. Already getting big clear on that objective. And this is Sparklark going in, does manage to bait out the Indestructible from Cankill. So I think the Indestructible from Cankill a little early. This is actually very, very risky for Cankill. He is in a lot of trouble. Snarfungus dodges the hammer from Cankill, but that is a huge wailing arrow from Zamang. As the whole backline from Rodney's imaginary friends just getting incredibly zoned out. Rodney now looking for something with the... Oh no, Rodney might not be able to find anything. I didn't even see if the Riptire went off. We're going to have kills go down on both sides, but it is Rong is Never Wrong. Doing more and more, finding more kills. Zamang kind of carrying on the Sylvanas there. Finding more kills, using the black arrows there to pursue this even more. They're being incredibly aggressive. Sparklark just going to have to get on out of there. I don't even think he gets out. Drinko for sure dead. And at this point, kind of just buying time for his teammates to get up so that they will be able to mount a reasonable defense against the Punisher that will push in the bottom lane. So it was a huge Wailing Arrow. And again, that is a big part of why Wailing Arrow is so important at this level of play. It's just a very consistent value. It's a huge team fight winning ult. Yeah, and at this rate, I mean, things were looking relatively even going into that fight, but now things are looking really strong for Rong is Never Wrong. The Rong is strong. So that Mortar Punisher will come out. They've got camps pushing soon to be in 3 lanes, although Asmachad going to be taking care of this top lane real quick, and he needs to make his way down to middle before he can hopefully maybe help his team defend bot, as they're going to have both a siege camp as well as the Punisher pushing alongside. Punisher, of course, will be baited over. Nice bait by Sparklark, and starting to pull it up top a little bit. So definitely getting this Punisher to really waste some of its value down to about 60% of its health without actually doing much damage to the keep. Eventually it will reach the keep. The black arrows will also be active. Punisher will jump onto Asmachad. And this is now still looking really good for Rong is Never Wrong. This is a keep at a minimum. What else can they make of it, though? Can they find any kills? Snarfungus being chased down by Fire Lance on that Tychus. Can they make a kill onto the Asmachad? No, they can't. Asmachad, oh no. But Snarf is looking really, really low. Snarf getting hit a little bit by that Mortar Punisher. For now, Rodney's imaginary friends, they hold. But for how much longer? As they still actually haven't fully cleared the camps in either the top or the mid lane, so they still have to take care of that. They're still looking for Asmachad. Asmachad does not have bunker at this point, and I'm not sure how many pulls Drinko has left either. At least one was used very recently. So things looking pretty scary. We also have 20 talent tier advantage. The long-range poke from Rong is Never Wrong is not great at the moment, so it's not easy for them to just poke this down. In about 18, 17, we're literally counting the Odin timer now. When Odin is back off cooldown, they might be able to do some damage here or here, more likely up top if they want to. Sylvanas here all by herself feels like a potential way for Rodney's imaginary friends to come back into this game. But she does have a lot of fail-safes between 2 casts of Haunting Wave, Will of the Forsaken, and Bolt of the Storm. So a very tricky and slippery and evasive Sylvanas that we see right here. Trap just going to be eaten by the Unstoppable, the Seraphim from Urel. They're just going to go in. They're just going to try to make it happen there. Blaze goes wide with the jet propulsion. Does manage to use
We did have Light Bomb go out, did hit onto the Blaze and stun one, but not enough. Meanwhile, Firelance just putting damage into this keep, and that will be another keep go down. They might even just be able to rotate up top and take out the top one as well. That's an easy keep. Are they just going to try to push onto core with this? I don't think they can actually push onto core. Not sure how much time is left. Okay, I was going to say how much time is left on the Tychus with the Odin, but eventually it does expire there. Of course, the cooldown for Odin does run concurrent with the actual duration of Odin itself. So technically, the cooldown of Odin is 100 seconds. But what we saw there was that once he was actually out of the Odin, the cooldown was in the mid-60s. Don't remember the exact number. Of course, it is 23 is the standard duration, 50% increase. Oh, we're doing math here. So about 35 seconds. So it's not that long of a cooldown when you think of it that way. Okay, here it is. What is likely, there's a decent chance that this will be the final shrine of the game. Excuse me. As the pressure is just becoming backbreaking for Rodney's imaginary friends. They're getting pretty close to being into a checkmate position where this wave bot, along with this one coming along, could possibly end by itself. So Asmachad is here, but now they aren't available to fight as 5 on the shrine. So it does feel like they're kind of getting checkmated. This is just at the time where they need to just pull out the Hail Marys, just the big plays, all the sports ball references. Sparkler kind of just needs to int and try to make something happen, and it looks like he's going to try to do that. Asmachad is here too. They catch the Blaze in the back. Do actually manage to stun him, but he is in the Odin. Meanwhile, Zamang is just going ham on the back line and even manages to use the Bolt of a Storm to get out of there. So that's Vala already down for this fight, which likely means this fight is over. Rodney, not very long for this world either. King Mo just getting away with murder. Or will he? He does not have... Okay, he doesn't have Ardent Defender, but, I mean, he's got Unstoppable on a 10-second cooldown. And, yeah, I mean, I'd say this is more or less done, and the rest of this game is probably a formality. Doesn't even look like they're bothering to defend the top. We just haven't seen the GGs come out yet. This feels indefensible. This feels indefensible. Full health Punisher. Odin, we don't actually have Odin, but still, it feels indefensible. Punisher is not even like at 95% of its hit points yet. You know what else is not at 95% of its hit points? It's going to be that core, because this is going to be game number 2, going in favor of Rong is Never Wrong. Bring it back, and it turns out this will be a competitive series. Very nice. So, kills this time going in favor of Rong is Never Wrong. 10-4, not quite the disparity we had last game, but they were in the driver's seat for pretty much, aside from I think the first Punisher Shrine that they lost, I think they were pretty much in the driver's seat for the whole game. 3 deaths in the end on that Vala, just really getting oppressed by by a lot of things, particularly the Sylvanas. You know, for my money, I got to look at, for me, the MVPs. It's hard to decide. Probably the Sylvanas, but I think there's a reasonable choice for the Yrel as well. Both of those players making some incredible plays. Sylvanas, obviously, with the top damage for the whole game, as well as top kills, getting 6 by herself. Big plays with the Wailing Arrow, as well as with the Windrunner. And then, of course, some narrow escapes with the Bolt of the Storm. We'll take a look at those builds. You know, of course, it was, as I said, that Windrunner Sylvanas that was particularly influential in that game. And again, I think we saw a lot of the Yrel. The Yrel is actually something that I kind of wonder, do they want to let that through a third time? It's been in 2 games. Of course, they did beat it in the first game. Rodney's imaginary friends, that is. So maybe it's not unreasonable, but it did feel like the Yrel got insane amounts of value this game too. Of course, that Templar's Verdict, when Yrel's just allowed to get all the way into the back and is hitting like 2-3-man Templar's Verdict, just what that's setting up is huge. And I'm still thinking about that time when King Mo was really all the way behind enemy lines. Like, there was a fort, there was an enemy team in front of him, and the rest of Wrong is Never Wrong was on the other side of that team. He was just like completely alone but just Urel's so tanky and also able to have so much influence when they are in your backline. So we're going to see how things go, as this will actually be a 3-game series. Was kind of wondering, what we would see there, but it will be a 3-game series. I was also, what I will also say is that I was considering doing a doubleheader tonight, which basically, if the series had ended now, or actually, there might still be room for me to do that. I think there is a 7 o'clock game, so I might still do a doubleheader. But you know what? We're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We've got game number 3, but for now, first, we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be sick. All right, so we're going to take a quick look at this map screen because the draft is starting out real soon. Our final game of the series is going to be on Towers of Doom. Rong is never wrong picking this map, so they picked every single map in this series, really just preferring that map pick. And also, Rodney's imaginary friends really preferring that first pick. So we're already into it. Let's take a look at this draft for Towers of Doom. Now, this is another map where I actually feel Urel... I mean, I actually wonder, if Urel really has many bad maps. And I do personally feel like this is a map where Urel can do very well. Oh, okay. There we go. The Urel is banned. And, I was really feeling it. It just felt so strong in that last game. And they will not let it through this game. I think what I think is good about Urel on this map is I think there are a lot of walls where Urel can jump over and just suddenly be in your backline when you didn't even see it coming. Coming out from the fog of war. And just has the potential to be a huge problem. Meanwhile, talking about huge problems, Junkrat's almost always a huge problem, and he will not make it into this last game in the series. Rodney, not allowed to play that. Didn't feel like, Rodney... Okay, so really going for respect and target bans in this last game, and apparently just feeling similar to how I do, where the problems in last game for Rodney's... I want to call him Rodney. Rodney's imaginary friends really was the Urel and the Sylvanas. Just huge plays coming out from both of those players on those heroes. Of course, if they really play those heroes that well, it does make me wonder, what else do they have up their sleeve? Do they have other heroes that they can have just as much of an impact? Talk about heroes that can have an impact. Have you heard about Hogger? Because this hero is not balanced. And Asmochad just locked him in. In previous series, or rather in previous games, the Hogger did not make it through. It was banned out in the last 2 games, but not this one. This time, we will get to see the Knoll.
the scourge of whatever that beginning area is in WoW. I don't play WoW. But Diablo going to come out for the side of Rong is Never Wrong alongside the Brightwing. Diablo, also a hero that we didn't get to see in the first 2 games because it was banned out. And this time, we're going to see it. Love to see it. I personally, Diablo is, when it comes to tanks, he's absolutely my favorite tank in the game. I don't actually like to play tank, but if I have to play tank, Diablo is super fun. And at this level of play, he's a very important hero. He's extremely good. Basically, I do think Diablo and Johanna are the 2 best tanks in the game, so we kind of just see those picked up by both sides. Johanna has played a pretty important role in this series. Drinko going to be reprising his role on the Anduin. Meanwhile, our bans are going to come out. So, didn't mention the Stitches ban before. Don't know if that's really a target ban, and I have previously played with Sparklark. I don't think of him... I imagine he plays Stitches to some extent, but it doesn't strike me as something that he's particularly fond of. It is just something that is very, very strong on this map. This is, for sure, Stitch's strongest map for many, many reasons that are hard to go into full detail while the draft is moving around. Meanwhile, we are going to see a Genji banned out as well as a Blaze. Zamang now going to be picking up the Hanzo, so King Mo going to have to play something different. Definitely, I think there's potential for high impact on the Dahaka, just in a bit of a different way than the Yrel. Greymane picked up by Rodney. So Greymane, kind of important as a tank-busting hero when you're playing into a hero like Diablo. When you're playing into Diablo, you need some kind of tank-busting hero. And of course, there are many options. Tychus, obviously a hero we've already seen. I think generally at this level, a lot of higher-level tank players will say that Tychus isn't the super hard counter against Diablo that he is really seen to be at some other levels of play, but he still definitely does significant damage to a Diablo. But Greymane also does very significant damage to a Diablo, while at the same time, I think, being a little bit more well-rounded of a character overall. And that's going to be our draft for Game 5. Jaina picked up in that last slot is interesting. That is one that Jaina is... I've definitely come to respect Jaina a lot more over the past couple seasons. But, I'm a little concerned about her into this draft. We'll see how it works out, as that's our draft for game number 3. That's going to be it. I hope I didn't mess anything up on my screen, and yeah, we're just going to run it live. All right, game number 3. Could it really be anywhere else but Towers of Doom? Rodney's Imaginary Friends is not the team that I'm going to introduce first, because they're not on this side of the map. Instead, we're going to talk about Rong is Never Wrong. Zamang this time on the Hanzo, Tuna Breath on the Brightwing. Firelance will be playing as the Jaina, King Mo on the Dahaka, and Can Kill on the Diablo. Their opponents. Rodney, he's here. He's the first person I'm talking about, and this team is named after him. Rodney on the Greymane, Sparklark being played, or playing as the Johanna. Snarfungus will be on Li Ming this time, Asmachad on the Hogger, and finally Drinko will be playing as the Anduin. So a lot of the interesting things we see here, these are all like very try-hard drafts that I would very much expect to see at this level. If there is something that does seem a little unusual, it is that Li Ming that I had kind of mentioned before. Li Ming as a hero who is usually at higher levels pretty exclusive to Battlefield of Eternity, but I do personally think that this is one of her better non-BOE maps. And I think, interestingly, what we have is the Greymane-Li Ming combination. This is an old combo. Old combo going back to like 2016, 2017. It used to be called a double reset comp because of the reset capabilities both of Li Ming's trait, Critical Mass, as well as Greymane's Heroic, Go for the Throat. Of course, these days, it's not always a guarantee that we see Go for the Throat, for the reason that he has another ult, Cursed Bullet, that he did not have back in 2016. Long, long ago, Greymane had a heroic called Marked for the Kill, which was eventually reworked into Cursed Bullet.
mark for the kill allowed you to shoot a bullet that would hit a target, and then you could reactivate it to dive to that. Anyway, it's gone. We'll never see it again. Big invade coming in here. King Mo coming in. Does commit the burrow. It's not a... It's... What is it really called? Not just burrow. Brush stalker. No, either way. He burrows in. He digs. I believe that's what people just call it. The kids call it dig. He comes in. So that will be a camp steal in favor of Rong is Never Wrong. But they're actually behind in experience. So must have been a couple waves missed by King Mo. Wonder what our experience looks like. It is going to be Hogger with... Oh my god, which one is the experience? I don't know. One of these things. We'll just press the tab button. Yeah, Hogger with more experience than King Mo. Probably missed a couple waves and still maintaining that experience. So Hogger just kind of maintaining that discipline of the double soak. Unstoppable, the indestructible, not the indestructible. My god, what are things called? I don't know. Either way, Sparklark using the unstoppable combined with the shield. Rodney going back. And, yeah, that'll be it. Health bar is looking a little low on the side of Rodney's imaginary friends as Sparklark is going to eat another Blizzard wave from Firelance. Firelance, meanwhile, needs to get out of there. Does need to kind of recharge on mana. So the Jaina is a hero that ever since she received that buff to Ice Flows, where you get the cooldown reduction, definitely received... That was a significant buff, where she can, in the late game, kind of become a 1v9 hero. Kind of hard carry team fights. She's a little weak until then. And she definitely still has some significant weaknesses where she is definitely a little bit of a... more of a close range hero. Might have trouble when getting poked out from a distance. Either way, we'll see. Alright, Can Kill gets rooted. Looking a little low. Activates the Soul Shield. Firelance just narrowly dodging some orbs from Li Ming. Li Ming trying to finish that kill that Asmochad had set up. But health bar is looking pretty low on both sides, and both teams just kind of disengaging and looking to perhaps tap. Snarfungus will channel it. Zemang will prevent the channel, committing the Sonic Arrow. Firelance now in a little bit of trouble and will draw out the phase shift from Tuna Breath. So Can Kill. Oh, just barely does not get interrupted. We'll just kind of steal that away, just scam them out of the tower shots. And things will just return to neutral as level 7 Talontier comes in for Rodney's imaginary friends and now for Rong is Never Wrong. Sparklark goes in, Condemn on 2. Li Ming orbs do hit onto Can Kill, but he is a Diablo into a Li Ming, so he doesn't mind too much, although he didn't activate Soul Shield right then, at that moment. Rodney taking a lot of damage. Greymane, of course, a pretty close-range hero himself. And there is yet another phase shift coming out of Tuna Breath. Meanwhile, how is our off-lane matchup going? Something often neglected. I certainly neglected quite a bit. And generally when I stop neglecting it, that's when kills happen in the 4-man. Which is why I often just prefer to neglect it. Anyway, 4v3 here. Sparklark going in. Can Kill now kind of by himself, but he is a Soul Shield Diablo, so he is pretty unkillable. And we don't actually have a lot of those tank-busting elements that I talked about for Rodney just yet. The only thing he really has in terms of tank busting is just his high overall DPS. But doesn't have the Curse Bullet yet. It will very inevitably be Curse Bullet in this game. There is pretty much zero chance for Go for the Throat, I would say, when you're playing into a Diablo. Firelance potentially vulnerable, but does not quite get... I think just got the 60% decaying. I think only hit 1 with that Condemn, or rather that Punish from Johanna. Iron Skin. Jesus Christ. That's what it's called. I was blanking out on Johanna's trait name. It's Iron Skin. Just going to throw it out randomly at a time when it's not relevant at all. Now it is. Good. He heard me. Commits it aggressively, so now won't have it for a good 20 some odd seconds for whatever the cooldown is. Both King Mo down there. Diablo not able to follow up on the stun from King Mo. We are going to need to see a pull. Asmochad and Sparklark will go down. It's going to be our first kill. Beautiful tongue by King Mo, catching Snarfungus right after the teleport. Kind of predicted the teleport movement, and just the tongue was basically waiting for Li Ming. And with that, they'll be able to get some pretty decent damage, certainly at the very least, take down the front wall, and possibly more. Certainly a little bit more, but Li Ming isn't here. Man, might even be a lot more. They're held back a little bit, Wrong is never wrong, by the relatively low siege of their draft. Zemang as Hanzo is definitely a relatively low siege hero, especially into buildings. Firelance does well when Jaina has cooldowns, and I'm not sure if they really had cooldowns for that, but nevertheless still got the fort down to less than half of its hit points. Rodney's imaginary friends, meanwhile, just going to pick up their siege camp, or rather their sapper camp. Meanwhile, big commitment right here. They will find Asmachad. It's pretty big, so they want to make something happen with this, and they will trade out the kills. They managed to kill Diablo. They managed to kill Jaina. Can they make it? Can they get any more? Snarfungus looking a little low. Oh my god. Snarfungus trying to get more, actually manages to find, curves the bullet, and manages to find the kill onto Zemang. Beautifully played there by Snarfungus. So, as I said, curse bullet, had to be. Rodney's imaginary friends looking to see what siege they can find of their own. So it was super, super important for Rodney's imaginary friends find some kind of counter kill there, at least one. They lost their offlaner, big commitment of ults by Wrong is never wrong to take out the offlaner, which does mean a huge loss in soak if it's not somehow compensated for in another way. So they managed to find, I think it was, what was it, a triple kill? It was at least a double. I think it was a triple.
Be swift, hero.
Yeah, because it was Jaina, Diablo, and the Hanzo in the end. So, both offlaners coming down. King Mo just kind of walking there instead of burrowing. Sparklark all the way up front. Can kill coming in, looking for something. Rodney. I'm mispronouncing his name all over the place. He's Radney, he's Rodney, but in his heart and for his team, he's Rodney. Can kill's pretty low there. Can they get the kill? Oh, the kill comes out before they're actually able to kill Diablo. Rodney gets out, but Drinko's super low. The first kill, though, does nevertheless happen on the Diablo in spite of the phase shift from the Brightwing, and they will make it to getting that second kill onto Firelance. Unfortunately for them, they did not get both of the towers. They got one, and now they'll look to convert into even more wins by seeing what damage they can do to the tower. Tongue goes wide from King Mo. How does that even work? How does the tongue go wide? And okay, now here's a real interesting one. The glass cannon coming out from the Li Ming. This is pretty shocking. I typically think of this going glass cannon with Calamity as kind of a bit of a flex. Of course, you know, it makes her a lot more potentially dangerous in terms of the extra spell power, but typically the way Calamity works is that the level 13 Illusionist, the extra range on that talent, is usually pretty important to actually make those kills happen, to make sure that you can get in range of the target you're trying to kill. Talk about targets they're trying to kill. Doesn't look like Snarfungus is actually having any trouble getting in range of them at all. And we'll find some kills. Hanzo all the way back here. And I think part of what Asmachad does is, okay, eventually Zemang realizes he needs to just die because he's never getting out of there, and if he stays alive too long, he just gets staggered unnecessarily. Yeah, Snarfungus apparently not having any trouble at all getting in range, even though normally, technically, kind of the purpose of Illusionist is to give you the range you need to kind of leapfrog between targets when you are getting those reset combos. Meanwhile, Rodney, not Rodney, is going one of my absolute favorite talents on Greymane right here. This On the Prowl, Inner Beast granting 30% movement speed. I don't know if people realize just how bonkers of a number that is. That's mount speed that you can manage to keep up indefinitely as long as you can maintain Inner Beast. But forget about Inner Beast. Let's talk about the inner workings of this team fight. That was the transition. Tuna Breath does manage to teleport out there. Oh no! The glass cannon Li Ming goes down. Illusionist Li Ming would have lived. I'm actually not sure if Illusionist Li Ming would have lived there. Sparklark also in a huge amount of trouble, as that is actually just kills traded out. Players kind of isolated and split up, as Asmachad does find a spin that does at least get him out. I think, okay, that's actually a small silver lining for Rodney's imaginary friends. Okay, Asmachad actually going all the way in, committing the Hortipult to make sure that they don't lose that objective just yet, and he will stay alive. Drinko is in time to keep him alive, give him the healing that he needs. Asmachad still definitely in trouble, though, as Rodney is really in Narnia and all the way in the back line. I don't know if Rodney's going to survive here. There's definitely no pull for him, I'm pretty sure, but he does manage to use those Greymane mechanics, those sometimes awkward movement mechanics to get out of there. He makes sure that he dark flights in as soon as possible when he is in trouble. Oh man, but talk about trouble. It's going to be Drinko potentially in trouble, but definitely Zamang was in trouble. Drinko! Oh my god, nearly died. Got down to something like 17 hits, but no! I was gonna say nearly died, did in fact die. Can they punish King Mo for that? No, they can't. Oh my god, Drinko thought he was safe, but he wasn't. Nice dodge by Firelance, using the ice block there, and now suddenly Rodney's imaginary friends in huge amounts of trouble. King Mo finds yet another drag. King Mo has been big pretty much this whole series. Oh, Snarfungus goes in, found the interrupt on the phase shift from Brightwing, but ultimately not worth it and goes down as a result. So this series, you know, I was wondering, kind of personally, again, I was looking at Rong is Never Wrong as an underdog, not just in this series, but in this division, given that they were formerly a Nexus Division team 2 seasons ago, and none of the players on this team have Heroic Division experience. But you know who was really wrong in the end? This stupid caster. Didn't know what he was talking about, because Rong is Never Wrong is looking strong. I feel like this, I could write this as like a Dr. Seuss book. Rong is strong, and red, and blue. Anyway, there's nothing to this bit. Can Kill goes in, does eat a cursed bullet in the process, but does have the phase shift ready. Meanwhile, Rodney's looking pretty low. Just all things happening. Can't tell what's going on at all. Johanna zoned out of this fight, does get hit by the contagion. It's not contagion yet, it's isolation. Can Kill looking pretty low, but he is a Diablo. Tuna Breath is in there, and unfortunately for Tuna Breath, she is the first to go down. And with that, health bars are looking pretty low on both sides. What they need to be careful of is the Jaina! Just as I was about to say it, the Jaina has the potential to scam some kills out there, but the Jaina goes down in return. So Jaina, with this particular talent build, when I say particular talent build, I basically mean the 7 and 16 combination of Ice Flows and Numbing Blast. This particular talent combination is a little overpowered, and it is basically the thing that Jaina does, especially at this level of play. And it is something you need to be careful of. Regardless of how good the team fight looks in your favor, regardless of what advantage you have, you can get scammed out of your team's entire health bars. Oh man, talk about getting scammed out of health bars. Oh my god. I couldn't believe that. Spark getting out of there by the skin of his teeth. Just nearly going down. Sadly for Rodney's imaginary friends, they're once again finding themselves in a situation where they have a kill advantage, but are not really winning in the ways that count the most. They're now down 25 to 13 in core shots. Rodney taking damage. Crazy game, though. I need to drink some water, though. That last gasp on the Dragon Arrow just narrowly missing the kill on Sparklark. Did a number on my throat. That's not a line I should ever say again. All right. But as we get back into this game, kind of get ourselves reoriented. Ultimately, it still is a very even game, but huge damage going into Can Kill. Activates the Soul Shield a little late. And we really are just seeing how incredibly powerful Diablo is. Just such incredible self-healing, incredible spell damage reduction, both with his own Soul Shield and also from that 55 spell armor from the Pixie power of the Brightwing. Meanwhile, talking about kills, not going to happen from the Dragon Arrow at least. Rodney has to use Dark Flight evasively, so he won't be able to get the kill there. And now he goes in offensively with the Light Bomb. Unfortunately, it's still not looking good for Rodney's imaginary friends. They just barely managed to survive. but their health bars are so low. Big Dragon Arrows. Just kidding, not Dragon Arrows, just mixing up all the abilities. Big Giant Slayer Scatter Arrows coming out of the Hanzo. Really, really scaring me when the members of Rodney's imaginary friends are moving in forward. And Cankill going in yet even more. Does he go down? He does not. King Mo still in here. King Mo might go down, and yes, he does. Kind of got screwed up a little bit, I think, by the Condemn that hit him maybe when he wasn't expecting. But this is still a pretty strong position for Wrong is Never Wrong. Like, even if they have to give this up, like even if, I don't even know if they give this up. I mean, this would be level 20, down, invading down 20 for Rodney's imaginary friends. Oh no, Asmachad about to get scammed. Just kidding. He's got an ult. He does have Hortipult. He gets out. Big Dragon Arrow comes in. Can Zemang find like the Scatter Arrow that turns that into a kill? No, he cannot. And now he might get scammed if he's really playing too greedily. Maybe it's not even scammed. He might just be getting punished for illegal maneuvers. The Scatter Arrows, yeah, I mean, I just wonder how sustainable this is, how much they can really do this. They do actually get it. Okay, that is a huge win for Rodney's imaginary friends, and they will elect to take this out. And this is like kind of like a, you know, a contentious decision. They're not so low where they absolutely need to take this fight, or rather where they absolutely need to take the boss. But it's here, they'll get the value out of it. Cankill just breathing on the other team. I don't know if this no control is going to be what Asmachad needed. He does manage to go down. Rather unfortunate. And it's going to be another kill. That is going to be Sparkler going down as well. So in the end, that might have been an unnecessary boss take. And they get the damage from it. But I think what is worse about that is now they don't have the opportunity to take back the bottom keep. Anyway, let's stop looking at nothing. Maybe look at some actual heroes. Yeah, and this is where things get really tough. We have two Sapper camps that are marching on toward in the bottom lane. Total of 6 potential shots. First 3 going to go in apparently for free, as Rodney's imaginary friends really just not wanting to give up any heroes, because they lose any heroes and it really is going to be checkmate. It really will be the end of the game. All right, so all 6 of those sappers go in. Things looking real rough for Rodney's imaginary friends, as they can afford to give this away, and they might have to. I think they're just not close enough. I think they just can't get there in time. Tuna Breath finally channels it, and Cankill is really making it so Rodney cannot get close enough. Unfortunately for Rodney, gets no value out of the Light Bomb, but it doesn't matter, or does it? They do. Oh, big contagion from King Mo, my god. Oh no, that might just be the beginning of the end for Rodney's imaginary friends, as a huge contagion from King Mo manages to just turn that around. It was 1 kill in favor of Rodney's imaginary friends, but their health was just so low that the huge contagion from King Mo completely turned that around. Jesus Christ. Also, just an incredible level 20 talent here, ult. Don't go Essence Claws. It's never a good idea. Maybe it is sometimes, but probably not. Go Contagion. Just do it. All right. So, at this time, Wrong is Never Wrong. Really just looking to tighten the noose here. They will take down the mid fort, or rather the mid keep at this point, in their favor. While Rodney's imaginary friends just trying to stop the bleeding. They've still got 15 core points to make up. Oh no, and Rodney is going to get tongued by King Mo. It's not enough to result in a kill, but King Mo still in here. Does hit another contagion. I don't think this one will... Oh no, Rodney! I think Rodney, he's solo. Does he manage to get... Cankill will commit it. and he does manage to find the Shadow Charge, but it's not enough to get the kill onto Rodney, who does get a last-minute heal. Instead, it's going to be Sparklark, who does go down, and they can't trade it out for the kill onto Firelance. That damage from the Ming, even with the Glass Cannon, proving to be not enough. And at this point, I think we're pretty much looking at a checkmate position. I think this is probably the game in favor of Rong is never wrong. And again, the person who was truly wrong was King Andrew, looking at them as the underdogs. And it has been a competitive series the whole way around. A lot of fun. Okay, that kill there from Asmochad. Asmochad trying to single-handedly save this game, but it's still not enough yet. Can't overcome the 6 cap. Oh my god, they're down to 1 core point. They will get stalled, but that will be a deadly Ming, or will it? It won't be a deadly Ming, but it will be a dead core, as no one is here to interrupt Firelance, and he does finish off the core with that final channel. It is going to be Rong is never wrong, taking it with a 2-1 victory over Rodney's imaginary friends. Turned out to be a fantastic series, regardless of whether or not I was wrong. Yeah, great games all around. Every single game was really close. And Rong is never wrong, very much proving that they are worthy of being in Heroic Division. They deserve it. Incredible game here. Super close with 17-16. Taking a look at our talent builds. You know, at this point, after game 2, I was kind of wondering who I was looking at as my MVP, but the person who I personally am really looking at as the MVP has to be Kingmo. Had incredible performances both on the URL as well as in the Dahaka this game. That contagion towards the end that basically sealed the fate of the entire game is absolutely one of the best contagions I've ever seen. So, shout outs to him in particular. But great game all around, and I look forward to seeing what both of these teams have to offer throughout the rest of this season. For now, though, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll look to see if I can set up an interview, so don't go anywhere. I will go to a break screen, but I'm looking to get somebody in an interview soon. We'll see how it goes. I need to just contact some of these people. And if you're watching the stream, I'll be in a lobby.